At 4:11 a.m., before most of Massachusetts had even opened its eyes, a single encrypted alert hit the federal command servers in Quantico. The message was short, direct, final. Evidence confirmed, proceed. And in that moment, the state of Massachusetts shifted from quiet governance to something far closer to a battlefield. Because what federal agents were about to uncover inside the governor's own offices would force the entire country to ask a question it never imagined asking. How does 1.2 tons of narcotics, 129 illegal weapons, and a fully built distribution empire hide in plain sight inside the institutions meant to protect the public? You'll see the full answer as we move forward. And in 2 minutes, you'll understand why the FBI and DEA called this operation one of the darkest corruption cases in state history. This wasn't a cartel warehouse. It wasn't a gang safe house. It wasn't an abandoned dock or a hidden tunnel. It was the seat of state power, used as a trafficking corridor by the very people who had sworn an oath to uphold the law. At exactly 4:16 a.m., DEA strike personnel, backed by FBI tactical units, approached the Massachusetts State Office Annex in Springfield. No lights, no warnings, just the controlled, steady advance of agents who knew what they were walking into. They had spent weeks tracking coded transfers, off-the-books deliveries, forged documents, and encrypted financial trails that made no sense until the final piece fell into place. And now they were here to confirm the unthinkable. The breach came fast. A single charge slammed the steel access door inward, sending papers and dust through the hallway like a burst of white smoke. Agents moved in tight formation, clearing room after room until they reached the governor's Western Massachusetts operations office. The place looked harmless. Desks, files, family photos, diplomas, everything a trusted state office should have. But on the center conference table sat a courier box sealed with official markings. The room went silent as agents cut it open. Inside was a reality no one wanted to believe. 8 kilograms of high-purity cocaine, a 9mm pistol with the serial number filed down, an envelope stuffed with $38,500 in rubber-banded cash. And beside it, standing frozen, already in cuffs, was Miles Carter, a senior regional operations coordinator personally appointed 2 years earlier as part of the governor's leadership expansion plan. He had campaigned on transparency. He had filmed speeches about accountability. He had talked about cleaning up street-level poison. And now federal agents had caught him distributing it. If you're still here, you already understand this is bigger than one official, bigger than one office, bigger than one arrest. This is about infiltration, about a system bent from the inside until it finally snapped. And the deeper agents went, the worse it got. All right, quick pause. If you're learning something new, hit like and tap subscribe so you never miss a breakdown like this. Appreciate you. When federal analysts finally cracked the encrypted drive seized from Carter's desk, the room changed. What was supposed to be a simple evidence review turned into a discovery that forced everyone to sit forward in their chairs. The laptop was not using government standard security. This was cartel-grade encryption, layered, stacked, hidden behind authentication protocols that no state office should ever require. It took hours to break, but the moment the screen unlocked, the investigation stopped being a single arrest and instantly became something far more dangerous. Rows of shipping logs filled the screen. Dates, quantities, locations. Items labeled as agricultural supplies, municipal repair stock, state document returns, and priority administration parcels. But the numbers were wrong. Too heavy for paper, too frequent for maintenance, too consistent for coincidence. Federally calibrated weight comparisons showed what the labels were trying to hide. 19 shipments over 14 months, each weighing between 8 and 20 kilograms. Every one of them moved through official state channels. Every one of them disguised as routine government cargo. And the part that sent a chill through the room wasn't the shipments themselves. It was the names tied to the approval chain. Not street pushers, not known dealers, not gang lookouts. These were people with ID cards, salaries, desks, offices, people the public trusted with authority. A patrol officer in Worcester approving secure document deliveries. A county clerk clearing regional transport bins. a deputy sheriff authorizing asset returns, a courthouse administrator signing off on sealed state transfers. Individually, none of these looked suspicious. Together, they formed a quiet pipeline woven directly into Massachusetts governance. The deeper analysts dug, the more disturbing the map became. State-owned storage units used as consolidation points, municipal garages repurposed as temporary holding sites, shipping hubs processing internal returns that were anything but internal, evidence lockers with missing logs, cameras conveniently offline during specific transfer windows. This was not incompetence. This was engineering. And at the top of the chain sat an oversight pattern no one wanted to believe. Deliveries were always scheduled during standard government hours, when security was high enough to deter criminals, but lax enough to trust the badge on the uniform. It was camouflage built on bureaucracy. Inside the command center, the mood shifted. The case was no longer about how drugs entered the state. It was about how deep the corruption ran. And the next step had to be taken carefully. Too fast and the network would scatter. Too slow and more people inside these offices might disappear, taking evidence with them. As agents prepared the next move, the digital board lit up with new red markers. Addresses tied to the supply chain, safe houses disguised as auto shops, apartments used as distribution nodes, warehouses hidden behind community organizations. The scale was widening by the minute, and now the question wasn't who was involved, but how much of the state had been compromised. At 3:54 a.m. and inside a temporary federal command post outside Worcester, a massive digital map of Massachusetts glowed like a heartbeat. Red indicators kept multiplying, each one marking a location tied to the corruption chain. Storage units, converted garages, quiet residential apartments used as distribution points, a food warehouse that, on paper, supplied community centers, but in reality, hid boxes stacked with narcotics behind rows of frozen vegetables. Federal teams watched it all update in real time, and the room carried the tension of a state bracing for impact. 4 minutes later, a single message appeared on a secured terminal. One word: execute. The operation launched instantly. Across Massachusetts, doors shattered, boots hammered concrete, and armored convoys rolled down streets that were normally quiet before sunrise. This time, there were no warrants taped to windows, no polite knocks, no delays. These raids had to hit all targets at once. If even one location warned the others, the entire network could vanish before dawn. In Lowell, a 2-story auto shop with darkened windows was the first to fall. Agents surrounded the building in silence before a white flash of an intruder charge blew the steel door inward. The interior erupted with shouts, smoke, and the echo of grenades bouncing off concrete. 3 men inside the shop reached for their weapons. They never got the chance to use them. Tactical teams dropped them in seconds, securing the room with the precision of soldiers who knew every corner could hold another threat. 20 miles away in Springfield, a warehouse marked as an agricultural distributor hid something else entirely. A forklift sat abandoned. Pallets of packaging supplies were staged like a set. But beneath 2 large blue tarps, agents lifted what they were truly looking for. Over 200 pounds of compressed cocaine, 90 pounds of fentanyl, a shipment ready to move. The drugs were packaged with symbols that matched the encrypted logs found earlier. Purity codes, destination codes, timing codes. It was confirmation that the corruption had crossed from offices into full-scale trafficking infrastructure. And then Worcester erupted. A set of suspects inside a garage spotted the approach of federal vehicles. Surveillance cameras captured them rushing for rifles, trying to flee through a side alley. Before they could escape, a Blackhawk helicopter thundered overhead, its rotor wash ripping loose debris across the pavement. A loudspeaker boomed, "Drop your weapons, you are surrounded." They didn't listen. Gunfire cracked down the alley, bright muzzle flashes reflecting off brick walls. A DEA agent ducked behind a concrete barrier, while FBI operators advanced, controlled, steady, firing only in short bursts. No panic, no hesitation. It was a street-level firefight in the middle of a waking neighborhood. 9 minutes later, it was over. 2 suspects lay motionless. 3 more dropped their rifles and surrendered, hands shaking, realizing the escape routes they counted on were already blocked miles away. Trails that once felt safe were collapsing around them like a burning map. By sunrise, the numbers were staggering. 47 arrests, 1.2 tons of narcotics seized across multiple sites, 129 firearms recovered, including illegal foreign imports and modified rifles, dozens of encrypted ledgers, phones, and coded documents. Across multiple cities, neighbors stared out their windows at convoys, helicopters, and agents collecting evidence that looked like it came from a military conflict, not a state office scandal. But the raids were only the visible part of the operation. What agents found inside the seized devices, the seized files, and the seized finances would hit even harder. Inside the Boston Federal Analysis Center, the scale of the operation finally became clear. Screens across the room displayed evidence pulled from the raids, seized phones, financial records, drug packaging, warehouse photos, and government documents. But the most disturbing part wasn't the volume of evidence. It was how perfectly everything fit together. This wasn't a cartel slipping through cracks. This was a cartel living inside the system, using state processes as camouflage. 4 distribution routes had been built into legitimate logistics channels. Trucks that should have been carrying municipal supplies were silently transporting sealed containers disguised as state cargo. Approvals came from people with badges and job titles that made the paperwork unquestionable. Warehouse sites showed the same careful design. Behind stacks of frozen food and community supplies were compressed bricks of cocaine and fentanyl arranged with coded labels matching the logs seized earlier. These weren't sloppy storage rooms. They were organized distribution hubs run by people who knew exactly how to hide under government infrastructure. Then came the financial network. 2 invitation-only casinos were quietly converting drug cash into clean deposits. No signs, no advertising, just private rooms where chips became receipts and receipts became consulting payments. A nonprofit, praised publicly for helping local youth, had processed more than $11.3 million in fake donations. That account funded retainers, policy consultations, and community partnerships that were nothing more than disguised bribes. When investigators connected the last financial link, the room went silent. Several individuals tied to the system were still working inside government buildings. Federal teams moved in quietly. No explosions, no alarms. Officers who had worn the badge for decades watched their credentials taken away. Detectives once celebrated for lowering crime statistics were escorted out in cuffs. By noon, 17 officers, 2 administrators, and 1 procurement advisor were in federal custody. Across the state, people watched in stunned silence as the truth settled in. The threat hadn't been outside, it had been inside the uniform. Shield or silence? If you stand with the shield, hit like so, this story reaches someone else who needs to hear it. And if you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe and stay with us. The fight for integrity doesn't end here.